Buenos dias, pendejos. This is Frank, Iron Age News on the South Florida Conservative website. Guess nobody else has made videos, so I'm back. Just got back in town in time to follow more of the incredible erosion of my opinion of Governor Ron DeSantis. Disclaimer, I worked as a volunteer on both elections. Second time, actually a lot of time and a lot of money proportionate to my income went to putting this faker into the office for a second time. While it was going on, there had been rumors that he was thinking about a presidential bid. And I said to a couple of the people that worked for him, I said, look, if this is the kind of bullshit you're doing, and he has all of us out here very optimistic, stars in your eyes kind of stuff, and then he turns around and screws us and runs for president with that money, because I think he has $25 or $45 million left, plus whatever he brings in on this book, right? Because this book is not election stuff. He's not going to have an effing friend left in the real Republican movement. And he doesn't want one, as far as I can see. He does not want the MAGA people. He does not want real Republicans. And by the way, he is pushing these bills through second and third parties to ban free speech, to ban the ability for people to criticize the government. Wow, did I really take one? Mea culpa. I'm sorry. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming except for the people on the inside, I would say. I've talked about this thing with him and Disney, and I'm going to talk about that for a minute. As of today, prove me wrong, it is the 12th of March. He has dissolved the Reedy Creek Improvement District and opened up the Florida Sunshine, whatever it is. He appointed his own people, two or three of which are fairly hard right. It's moms against. I have it in the articles. If you're watching this on South Florida Conservative, all the articles will be listed in my article, along with this video, and a number of other things that you should look at. And so on the pretense of punishing Disney for supporting opponents to the Don't Say Gay bill, which was not about gays, it was about sex education being taught to people below the age of a third grader. He whipped this whole thing up to take away Disney's power of self-governance to an extent. Now, you have to really look at this. I have an article I'm having to hear from. It's called The Tallahassee Democrat. Very good article. This must be a John F. Kennedy Democrat, because it's not the usual rhetoric. It includes all the documentation that they could get quickly, I guess, because Reedy Creek's been dissolved. I doubt they're answering Freedom of Information Act requests at this point. It didn't affect Disney World at all. It didn't affect the Disney people in any way at all. It threw a sop to a few extremist groups who supported the governor. Their people are now on that board. Plus, there are 3 lawyers who are not named. I don't believe that you should have an organization where you only name the people who are quote unquote high profile, and the 3 lawyers who are going to be the ones that are really doing the effing over are not named, right? But welcome to the world of private administration. Nobody voted on this. And as I said before, they repealed this thing based on what? That Disney was unable to effectively govern this area. Nobody complained about the way Disney governed itself. Okay? What they're going to do with this, and what bothers me, here's your other infringement on the First Amendment. He's putting these 5 in here, 2 of which are going to be lightning rods. Anytime Disney needs to build a road or whatever like that, they are going to be able to weigh in on certain things. So they can basically try to change Disney's policies for better or worse in exchange for improvements to be done to the park. Okay? Now that stuff like that, denying roads and things of that nature, that's going to be kind of questionable, because I bet you that Disney has pre-engineered the entirety of the track. They are very They may like a lot of gay shit, but they do know engineering. Let's put it that way. People running the park know what's going on. They've known what's going on. They haven't, as they expand, they don't just guess their expansion. Their expansion is over 50 to 100 years or some crazy shit like that. Somebody told me that when I was there, and that was 20 years ago. It's the last time 20 years ago, probably. And whenever they put the lake in, so you come in by the boats, whenever that was put in, I was there. So that's 1,000 years ago. So he's put these hand-picked, not voted on people onto a board to run this community where there are also people living there. There's only a few hundred, but so what? They've been deprived their rights. They were deprived their rights under Disney, but, they probably worked for Disney or something like that. You have to go talk to them. So the governor, instead of doing the right thing, which would be to make a voting position, has made an appointed position so he can always leverage Disney or also leverage Disney money when he goes on his next safari for president or whatever he's going to go for. He gets a minus 500 for that one, right? Nobody has expressed with any certainty how the $1 billion with a B in debt that Reedy Creek holds will be paid by somebody, by who's going to pay for it. Will it be Osceola in Orange County? Will it be the state of Florida? Ron DeSantis says it's Disney, and Disney's going to say, we were doing just fine until you repealed this thing in a fiat way that you just didn't give us shit, and you did it as a tantrum of a child and took this away from us. So we are under no responsibility to handle this. This debt issue will drag out till after the presidential election, at which time either he thinks he's going to be president or he's going to be sitting some island someplace, neither of which will affect him. And people will forget all about this until you see your tax bills. It's 80 some or $160 or 160 some dollars per person for everybody in the state of Florida. We don't need to pay because a guy's trying to get elected to president. This is a string of shit that I am so upset about. And those of you who said it, somebody said to me, well, it's okay as long as we got rid of the child groomers, I'll pay a few extra dollars. It didn't get anything done. They didn't say, they didn't say uncle, they didn't say aunt, they didn't misgender anybody. Disney continued to keep on rolling. Because ultimately I know they're going to appeal this. They're going to say they can't, but they can. And because this was a very exceptional piece of legislation when it was put in, it's going to embarrass a lot of people that this has happened, because Disney's kept ample records, everything it does. It's got its own little counterintelligence department. It always has. So they've got all kinds of shit, which is going to come out of the woodwork. And hopefully these are not friends of Governor DeSantis's people, because they will get buried along with him. So that's the Reedy Creek issue. Those of you who have seen his attempts with his friends, I'll link the videos I've already done. State Senator Brodeur with his, it's illegal to criticize the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the attorney general law. There's also one in the state house. What a bunch of shit. Brodeur, as we saw, took $400 and some thousand from an organization to which Governor DeSantis had already donated $2.5 million to. I think somebody should look at every one of the donations that group made. It's called it's in the article. I can't remember everything, getting old. And see that this is a clear payoff to Brodeur. His next biggest freaking sponsor was $10,000. He doesn't have a campaign without that $400,000, which means he has no chance to go. He'd have to go to work selling baby alligators on the side of the road, right? Or something. Go to day labor, because he's got day labor written all over him. It's nonsense. This need to do this. And the reason they're doing this, you would think, is, oh, we're going to stifle all these other people's abilities to do things. Wrong. It's to stop Donald Trump from tearing him apart during the primary, which he cannot attend the primary until Governor DeSantis resigns from office. Therefore, Governor DeSantis is pushing through some of these people that have received money, probably from organizations to which he has also donated, to repeal or bend the rules for the resign to run law. If you are not in Florida, you should know that if you wish to run for an office, you have to resign from your current office to do so. And Ron doesn't want to do that. So he's pushing to change the law. This is The Great Emancipator. His book's called, I forget what it is, it's in the other room. I've been filling my bird cage with pages as we go along. We'll talk about that book some later time. Somebody's already debunked half of it. So I'm going to go back and cover everything else. As a voter, as an investor, look at Ron as a goddamn stock I bought, right? I was told one thing, I'm being delivered another. The value of his stock is going down. I feel that I've been robbed. As a taxpayer, I've been robbed. And people aren't getting it. Reedy Creek, they didn't get it. $1 billion. We're paying it, right? This nonsense about it's a free state. It's far from free. He's putting together a situation that whoever follows him, if it's a positive person or a negative person, is in an unassailable position as governor. Anybody, me, a blogger, your mother, whoever wants to go out there and say, I'm not happy with this government, is looking at, possible jail time and definite fines. And the other side, he'll say, I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. Whoever is putting together his thing is probably the wife, because she was involved in television. So I'm going to give her she's also the smart beetle in this group, okay? She's the image. She knows the image is important. He is doing what he's doing. He has been involved with Jeb Bush. He is supposedly involved with George Soros. I don't know. But if you see Bush, then you know that Mitt Romney is not far behind. And in fact, where did I have this one thing I just pulled up? One of the judges that denied, you have to excuse me because, we're working with a lot of money here. That's everything I have pulled up is DeSantis endorsed Florida bill as an outright attack on the First Amendment. Type those words in and see how many you get. Okay, this goes back to Reedy Creek. These people that are taxpayers in Osceola County, I think it is. Osceola and Orange are the ones that are going to eventually eat this shit sandwich. Okay, I'm quoting this. Unlike Ron DeSantis, who doesn't quote or have references at the end of his book, and actually quoted a Shakespeare line in the end of a sentence instead of doing the basic thing, which is as Shakespeare would say, otherwise it's called plagiarism. Put the quotes, if you even quote it, say quoted by, I'm going to quote Shakespeare here, or there's a reference or some bibliography somewhere. None of that shit is in Ron DeSantis's book. He's making it sound like he came up with this whole thing himself. Impressive for him, right? Good boy. But this goes back a little ways, which is about the battle over the debt of Reedy Creek. A federal judge Tuesday at the time period dismissed a lawsuit. This is last year. This is the end of last year, 2022, going forward as when the whole thing really came together for him, because he's been dicking around with this for a while. This is May 11th of 2022, Tallahassee Democrat again. And by hitting that button, I just lost it. So, where's this? One more second. So in this article here, since I can't quote directly, okay, there we go. A federal judge Tuesday dismissed a lawsuit by 3 Florida residents against Governor Ron DeSantis over his plan to revoke the Walt Disney Company's Reedy Creek Improvement District. In her order, and this is why you always check into judges. Thank you, Tallahassee Democrat, for being a Kennedy-era person. In her order, U.S. District Court Judge Cecilia Altanaga, a George W. Bush appointee, found the Orange and Osceola counties' residences residents, meaning the people who are from Orange and Osceola County resident, lack standing to file the suit. The federal court lacks standing to decide the issue, and the law does not go into effect until 2023. So they went ahead and filed that said this is going to, both of them from Osceola and Orange, which surround Disney. These people filed the fact that they were going to get stuck with $1 billion worth of taxes. The George W. Bush appointee, who is related to Jeb Bush, who is now hanging with Ron DeSantis, snuck around the backside of this, which is, I wish a lawyer, we got to get a lawyer over here. Note to South Florida conservative, they got to get themselves a lawyer. What you're seeing is they're saying this doesn't matter because as far as we're doing it, Reedy Creek existed outside of the counties. Okay, even though it is like a county commission itself, it existed outside of Osceola and Orange counties. Therefore, their fear, which is that they're going to get stuck with these tax bills, which nobody says anything about yes or no, because nobody's talking. That's a very real situation. That has to go in. And they're saying, well, the law hasn't even gone into effect until next year at that time. Well, if you put the law into effect, then I'm getting saddled with $1 billion in taxes. And they're saying, well, we'll work that out once the law goes into effect, because he wanted to have it done now because he's getting ready to decide. It's either April or June he has to decide. So those of you who are in the Florida legislature, if you want to get another effing Republican vote, and you'll say, oh, I've got all these new little R's, small R rhinos running around that are in the DeSantis cult, they're going to go away when he loses. All right. You're going to get stuck with the rest of the people, and they're going to be mad, and they will elect a communist or a Hitlerian or whatever the hell over your punk asses. The retaliation is going to be huge. And if you don't know that, think about it like a Machiavellian thing. Ron DeSantis has pushed you guys around like the little bitches you are for the last 4 years. All you have to do is hold off his ability to run for president, and you have payback in spades. Also, the fact that the man's trying to subvert the law, and he says he is the law, right? Is he Judge Dredd? He's the law, right? No, he works for us. And I think it's about time that the governor understands who he's working for. And to have taken that second term of office and going to do fucking nothing. Because once you start running for president, you aren't out there actively legislating anything. If he hasn't enshrined into law all the things that he's already talked about, including the tax difference things, the issues for the poor, the issues for the schools, if all those things aren't done as of the day he decides to run, they're not getting done. He's taking a big dump on the rest of us. And if you don't see it, then you're a fool. I hate to say it, but you're a fool. You're clouded in your eyes by the he ain't going to drain no swamp no way. He's in the swamp, baby. You know, and I'm telling you, I volunteered. I still work with him as governor. But if he doesn't know that this is going on, which would be incredible, which would show that he's probably not president material, he doesn't know that his hirelings are doing this, then there are some serious gaps in the communication board over at Team DeSantis, and they need to get plugged, and the other ones need to get fired. All right. So as I said, and when you'll come across this other one, it'll keep coming up, LA Times. It keeps falling apart. It's a good one, and it explains pretty much that Disney, other than a couple of little bullshit things, is going to continue on like nothing happened. So this was a big PR stunt. It was also a payoff to a number of very influential PACs that made Team DeSantis possible. It's a straight payoff. Should they have gone the other way and added it to Osceola and Orange counties? If the county people had decided to do so and they'd not have to pick up that $1 billion tax burden, yes. Should he immediately have sent in an accounting firm, a third-party accounting firm, to audit the debt and see what it really is? And if it's not just Disney carrying debt on the books to help their financial position, Yes, he should have done that. And he hasn't. And he does no intention of doing it. And he's supposed to be a lawyer, this big lawyer, right? And it's this blatant disregard for the little guy. You know, it's coming across that he's the cattleman's friend, the panhandle's boy. You know, it's another classic situation we have here with the Northwest wagging the dog of the state of Florida. They hate everybody below the lake. It's true. They always have, because when they own the state, it's where the goddamn capital's in the wrong spot. Should probably be down near Orlando. Nobody lived in the southern part of Florida when they put this thing together, and they liked it that way because then you always had your cousin as the governor. This land development thing has gotten out of control, and the good old boys are restless. Why do you think they continue to allow that sugar plants, the U.S. Crystals and everybody to pollute our drinking water, destroy our fish, keep us from being the tourism capital of the world like we could be? We would be like a gigantic version of Costa Rica. We would be making bank. But if that land ever goes for sale, those guys can't afford that. That's going to be some carpetbagger from Chicago or something coming in there, tearing that shit up and putting in ugly houses, bringing in crime and everything else. The ultimate goal of whoever is pushing DeSantis is to bring down the state of Florida pretty much. Florida was a safe haven during the last pandemic, not because Ron was an all-seeing God, but he was trying to follow what Donald Trump was doing while everybody else was not. And that brings you to the thing where he took a swipe at Trump the other day about COVID. Now, I did an article a long time ago. If you were on the BitChute or something like that, you've seen it, or Rumble. And it was the only way for Trump to go forward in this election is to own the responsibility of the COVID with the vaccination. He has to say the right thing, which is, and this is not nuancing it, I was the president of the United States. Dr. Fauci lied to me, intentionally lied to me in my position as president of the United States about the dangers of this. And I said, what can we do? And he told me what to do, and I moved forward. Once again, people have to realize the president of the United States isn't out like cleaning the floor or solving crimes. He's supposed to be administrating the executive branch of the United States. He wants to have quality people under him, which he tried to do. And we can all discuss what happened during President Trump's years, which is, if you talk to somebody in the Middle East, they liken the Netanyahu coup to the Trump coup, both of which governments they consider had illegitimate governance after the deposing of the rightful elected person. I go with that at this point. It all bears itself out. It didn't really say it back in the old days, but if you see all the footage from the January 6th footage, the Russia documents, this, that, and the other thing, it's pretty easy to prove. Just because I say it doesn't mean it's true, but I think that ultimately history will, if there's history left, will bear out the fact that the American public was duped, and that even not the hardest core left, but like I said, the centrist left should be embarrassed, but they should get over it and right the ship and put the ship in the right direction while they still have a chance. Because when the pendulum swings back the other way, boys, you aren't going to be happy with the way it goes. I won't be happy with it either. So, but what am I going to do at that point? You see, you look at the board that's going on here at Disney. That's going to go on everywhere. And Ron's out there playing, well, I'm just going to fight the big bad corporations. Come on. You know, who's going to, in what way? How are you going to do it? The same way you did this Disney thing? There's lawyers watching this entire case that are just like, come on, bring it to us, and we will tear you to pieces, let alone the usual personal attacks and stuff like that. There is nobody else that can handle that level of bullshit except for the man living at Mar-a-Lago. If you want to survive, right, you got to go that way. So that's pretty much the stance of where it is now. You're going to see, once again, as we've talked about, The new rift is the Daily Wire types that aren't really, these guys are not really, like Buckley-esque or Ronald Reagan-esque Republicans. They're out there to make big money. I mean, Ben Shapiro's out there like he's ready to do something with the governor at any moment. It's a totally scripted, I saw it at Gulfstream, totally scripted, no questions, bullshit thing. That was true. I don't care what anybody says. It was true. At the following day or two, you were asked not to come in if you had Trump stuff on, which should be a warning notice to all of us. I was happy with President Trump as my president and Ron DeSantis as my governor. I don't think that there is even a thought that this is not that DeSantis had any loyalty to Trump, although Trump made his career. There isn't any. There's not going to be any love lost. I think Donald Trump expected more loyalty from the Republican Party than he got. In fact, he got none. And here's case in point. Okay. You're going to see a lot of this going on because, once again, Trump has to own this COVID thing. And all he has to say is the truth. You know, you got to be the bigger man. You have to tell people he's talking about the swamp. He's talking about the election ripoff. He's talking about this. He's talking about that. He needs to talk about the military coup that was imposed against him through General Milley, who, after he's been told to remove troops from Syria and Africa and places like that, continues to run special operations in there and says, fuck the president. Should have been removed. You know, he should be busted down to corporal. He should be cleaning shitters on some island someplace. You know, and anybody else who was with him. Pentagon itself is not supposed to be making those decisions. It was supposed to be an organization that streamlined interface between the government and the military. It is not that. They think they are calling the shots. And it's about time somebody gets in there and explains what oath of office these guys took as officers. They are now the threat to America, foreign and domestic. Sad to say it. I'm sure it's not all of them, but there's enough of them. These are not the things that are going to be ferreted out in around DeSantis' presidency. He's going to continue to kick Disney. He's going to do these other things. Florida is free Florida, right? Lived here 25 years. Guess how many days it takes to get a rifle or shotgun in Florida? Can I walk in and get a rifle and shotgun in Florida? Can I walk in and get a pistol of any type? Right? Up in Pennsylvania, you could walk in and get a rifle or shotgun and walk out with it, as long as you had the paper, your ID, showed you lived there. I'm sure it may have changed since then, but this is 30 years ago. Florida, you cannot do that. We have a thing called the red flag law, which the town I live in is so excited to tell everybody that it's out there violating your Second Amendment rights. It makes me sick. I intend to move at some point because it's just diabolical. The red flag law allows a police officer or law enforcement, they'll say, to tell a judge that this person is dangerous. We need to go in the house and seize all the weapons. I don't know a lot of police that have degrees in psychiatry and psychology. I don't know a lot of police departments that have a psychiatrist or psychologist on site. I don't know when they took classes at the academy that says that there's enough to do that. This flies in my mind, flies in the face of the Baker Act, which is police are allowed to bring you to a facility for mental health evaluation for 48 hours. He's just saying there's something wrong with you, right? Because you're naked in the middle of the street or you're doing shit like that. They Baker Act you, okay? Supposedly they're getting less and less of it because they feel that that's some kind of rights issue for the crazy people. They probably say more suicidal people than anything else, which is great. Red flag, on the other hand, can be twisted around really freaking quick, okay? And that is a constitutional right. We're not talking about, there's no constitutional right that says you're allowed to be crazy in public. You're allowed to be naked in public, pulling your whatever out here. I have a homeless woman who constantly uses the sewer grate as a toilet. So you get to see that freaking thing. And there's kids around. I said that to police. They goes, well, what are you going to do? How about your job? How about you take her over and Baker Act her and let them look at her for 48 hours? There's obviously something wrong with any woman who is exposing herself to children through her need to defecate and urinate down a rain drain in public, major road this occurs on. Okay. But, you know, with the police departments, you're only as good as your officers, meaning the command and control. If you've got no command and control, then your officers do whatever the hell they're doing. If they want to be a glorified bunch of parking attendants, then that's how it's going to go. But there are no safe spaces anymore. So therefore, they should be eternally vigilant for the next group of weirdos that it comes in. And that's the end of that part of the story. And finally, of course, as we know, the governor's picking on some dumbass little college down here. I forget if it's New College of Florida or something. They're pretty woke, and he's going to start his test case by removing, removing a lot of their finances until they behave themselves. The problem, of course, is that the only people that are going to suffer are the students, because the teachers will dig in knowing that it's the end for them. He'll probably put together some kind of blacklist, which he'll say is necessary to protect the children. I don't believe that that's going to be the case. You know, I would like to think that teachers would learn their lesson, but as I was out when I came home the other night, stopped for dinner on Friday at a pho place, I had two hipsters that were teachers sitting across from me, but chair up, and all complaining about Ron DeSantis for all the wrong reasons. But the reasons that Ron DeSantis wants you to complain about him, that he's hard on liberals, that he hates this and he hates that, and he hates progressive learning. So if you notice, the mainstream media also is giving him, he's a frenemy of theirs, right? Oh, he's so tough on CRT. Oh, he's so tough on such and such a thing. Oh, he's so tough on this. So that the people that think that they're conservative or that are Republican in general are like, yay, he's our hero. He's got them scared. He didn't have anybody scared. He's got the Disney company. Like, Disney could walk away without paying $1 billion in debt, right? Because he says they're going to. They say that they're not. They say that you know, because of the special conditions of that Reedy Creek, they don't have to pay that. We'll always come back to this $1 billion thing if you think I'm doing some kind of circular deal. It's important, right? What's he going to do? Is he going to condemn Disney World? Is he going to shut them down? They are they're the largest physical employer of people in the state, but that doesn't mean they've got the most PhDs working there, if you know what I'm saying. There'll be a lot cheaper prices for landscaping when this is all over if Disney World were to shut down, which they won't, because they don't have to, because they know eventually he can be doing what he's doing. If they're not fighting it in court, then there's a reason they're not fighting it in court. He's going to once he takes possession of that thing, which he's done, I think you're going to find that they're going to say, you took possession of it, now you take possession of all of it. Changing the name does not remove the responsibility of that $1 billion to the physical area that is Reedy Creek. So they may have outmaneuvered him. I mean, I didn't know him to be some big chess player in the legal world, right? He went from the JAG office to Congress. So, you know, and the story of him going from Congress to the governor's office bears investigation. His story does not add up to what occurred. I don't want to go back. I don't need to go back and do all that. I'm judging the man on the things he's doing right now. And as a Florida resident, I am very concerned that he is going to leave this state in a worse position if he runs for president right now than he would. He should have gone and run his whole thing. He would have had, let's say Joe Biden got back in, which he probably still can because they can fix an election. He'd have 2 whole years to just sit there, smoke a cigar, do his talks wherever, and bash the government, knowing that he's going to go up against probably Hakeem Jeffries the following time. And he can wreck Hakeem Jeffries because nobody knows what Hakeem Jeffries does except that he's the minority head of the House, and he's Obama 2.0. So he can beat that, you know. He'll overcome the issue about it's a racial thing. it'll get down to who did what, and then he can pull his bullshit COVID thing out again, which once again, he has mentioned in here that he didn't go that path. I will tell you, in my county, in Broward County, for at least a few weeks, we were locked down too. He cannot tell you that he was staring up at space and Jesus told him never lock down. Everybody did it. Who realized it first? President of the United States realized there was a problem when he was drinking aquarium water or whatever it is that cured him, right? It was not that thing. And he wanted to move forward. And at that point, he realized the CDC had betrayed him. That's all he has to say. He was betrayed by Fauci because he was. Fauci admits to it. So Ron's big I told you so thing is bullshit. Trump just has to man up, which he hates. He will admit to mistakes. Ron DeSantis never admits to mistakes. As we learned in the investigation of voter integrity that was launched right prior to the election. Those of you who don't recall, he said there was a problem with certain irregularities, people who shouldn't be allowed to vote that were voting. One of which they brought up, the first case was a convicted murderer who'd gotten out of jail and who had voted. This was a task force that was run by the Attorney General's office and ran down by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, meaning that it was a completely self-contained operation that did not rely on local law enforcement or prosecutors to get the work done. Sounds like a hit squad. It is a hit squad. They found at least 5 or 6 people right off the top who were ineligible to vote who had voted. They grabbed this murderer and got a hold of him, brought him in, blah, 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 violated his rights to some extent. And it turned out that he hadn't requested the voting forms, that they had been sent to him where he was living. So he was like, I filled him out and sent him out. It's no big deal, right? Because it is his ignorance of the law. They'll say ignorance of the law is no excuse. They then had the ability to go back to the SOE in that county and beat the shit out of that place, because why are you sending a guy who's only recently been put out of jail for murder? Why are you sending him an ability to vote? Why are you sending him mail-in voting stuff? And more importantly, he's been in jail for how many years for murder? How many years have you been sending that shit out? Guess what they discovered? Nothing, because they didn't take the next step and investigate. This was virtue signaling, beat the grass to startle the snakes. Have you ever heard that term? That he was like going to keep his eye on the fucking voting this time, because the problem was he had cured the voting issue. It was cured. So to find issues with the voting issue, found issues with the man, and the man does not have issues. You know what I'm saying? That's the down of it. So here you had a possible, and if the Attorney General has done more, or if you're in the Attorney General's office and would like to have an interview, we will go up to Tallahassee. I will pay for it myself and interview you regarding the rest of the findings of that investigation. And then, of course, what the cost of that investigation was. I'm not a lawyer, but I know that if you're looking for voting issues and you find out that somebody at SOE is sending mail-in votes information to convicted serious felons and have probably been doing it the whole time the guy's in jail, then did he vote every year? Or somebody voted in his place, right? I think the guy, as far as I know, I think the guy's suing the state. And well, he should, right? But there were supposed to be 5 other ones. What happened to those cases? They had direct, if you were trying to fix it, once again, direct reasons to audit the SOE as supervisor of elections. SOEs of a county that is hostile to the Republican Party. You could have gone in and broke all their toys, banged up all their shit, and stole their candy. And there's nothing they could do, because you have this guy who is telling you what's up, right? Didn't do it. And that's the problem with a lot of the things. And it's going to, I sound like a broken record, so I'm going to stop soon. The fact of the matter is, doesn't care. It's politically expedient. It was done. Let's move on. Well, what about the next person who becomes governor? Fuck him. That's basically what he's saying with all this shit. When he doesn't make things a law and he says, I'm going to do it by edict, he is no better than Joe Biden. Joe Biden rules by edict, you know, no better than him. I mean, he's smarter, he's not deranged, and that's what makes him worse, because he's doing the shit that a mentally deranged man is doing, right? So anyway, look at some of this stuff. Whoever's running the DeSantis campaign, go look in a mirror, grow the fuck up. You know, you're going to ruin the lives of all the Floridians. And I'll tell you what's the funny thing, because I know a lot of the people that sponsor Ron DeSantis don't realize that when he does the betrayal, people will start moving out of the state again, because they'll know what's up. They'll know that the next pandemic or whatever that's coming, there will be no protection. There'll be none, because not a lot of this was put into law. You're going to be down at that point to constitutionally elected sheriffs, and how many of them are actually going to follow the rule. I think there's one. There's a guy up in Polk County. Outside of Polk County, or maybe one other county, you will get the lockdown, the real one, and it will be painful, because we're a state that cannot afford it. We're a tourism state, and without our tourism, we will die. And you will see the biggest crash of real estate that you have ever seen. 10 years from now, Blackstone or whoever it is will come in and pick up the pieces, and everybody will be like, what the F just happened here? That's the long game, if it would go that way. If there were such a thing as a group of businessmen who sponsored a kid out of college who was already making the right moves, taking the JAG office, getting married in his whites. That's the wife's idea, because she knows, he doesn't have a stupid wife. Anyone who doesn't believe that woman has a lot to do with where that man is today is out of their minds. She's Camelot. Like they said, she's building Camelot. He's JFK. You know where that ended up. So that's all I've got for now. We have some real topics outside of this to discuss, because this is probably being worn out by everybody else. But since I looked at it, I think South Florida conservative is one of the first people to question the sainthood of Sir Ron. And I'm glad I was part of it. I'm not one of these guys that wants to bring somebody down, but man needs to be educated. He needs to be sat down. He needs to be told what's up. And if he wants to go hang out with Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney and all the rest of these traitors to the United States, then he should get what the rest of them get, which is booed out of a goddamn room. Not more of this cheerleading shit. This is your life. It's my life. I don't get anything out of him being president if he fucking sells us down the river. He's not a hero. He's doing a job, right? He's doing a job. And you're going to put him in that position. You and I will put him in that position, or not put him in that position. But we'll see what happens if he can't bend this law, the resign to run law. If he cannot bend that, first of all, if he bends it, you should never vote for him, because he's saying, I'm the only person I can take on the swamp. I'm not like the Orange Man. And there'll be this big hullabaloo out there that says, yeah, we should be able to just keep circumventing laws and the Constitution and shit like that, because it makes us feel powerful. It's not how it works, right? If he were to quit the job, I would immediately put him 3 points up higher as being the man. I doubt he will quit the job. They will either subvert the law or some other bullshit will occur. So we'll find out. And if he doesn't do that, then I owe somebody $1. All right. So otherwise, have a good weekend. Weekend's over, and we're all heading up to Tallahassee on Tuesday for lobby days. My first time going, so we get to see what the dark underbelly of state of Florida legislation looks like. I'm sure there'll be lots of blow and dead hookers and all the kind of stuff that we expect out of Florida lawmakers. And I will bring back hopefully some information for you from that. Talk to you later on.